They breathe fire. They fly across burning skies. They appear in myths, legends, and nearly every symbol on Earth.
Are we talking about fantasy or something that once ruled the skies? We're talking about dragons. But what if dragons weren't just stories? What if they were real creatures living among us today? Here's what would happen if dragons were real. That means they would need muscles strong enough to lift massive wings, bones light enough to allow flight, a metabolism powerful enough to generate extreme heat, and a way to survive in modern ecosystems. So, could such a creature even exist? Surprisingly, maybe. We already know large flying reptiles once ruled the skies. Millions of years ago, pterosaurs had wingspans larger than a bus. Some dinosaurs had armored skin. Some reptiles can glide. Some animals produce chemicals that generate heat. So a dragon-like creature isn't completely impossible biologically.
But breathing fire? That's where it gets interesting.
Fire requires fuel, oxygen, and ignition. Some animals already produce flammable chemicals. For example, bombardier beetles spray boiling chemical mixtures as defense, a large reptile that stores flammable gas in a special organ. When threatened, it releases the gas and ignites it using friction or a spark-like biological mechanism.
Dragons exist today. Large, intelligent, territorial, capable of flight and fire. What happens next?
At first, chaos. Airspace would become dangerous. Commercial flights would need new safety systems. Military forces would treat dragons as national security threats. Cities would develop dragon detection radar systems. Rural areas might experience livestock losses. Insurance companies would create dragon damage policies. Yes, that would become a thing.
But humans adapt. We always do. Governments might try to capture and study dragons. If dragons were intelligent, possibly even self-aware, they might not accept human dominance. This could create the first non-human geopolitical conflict in history. Imagine treaties between nations and dragon territories. Protected dragon zones.
Or worse, dragon hunting industries. Black markets for dragon scales, teeth, and fire glands. History tells us something important. Whenever humans encounter powerful new species, we exploit them. But what about the environment? Dragons would be apex predators. They would likely hunt large animals. This could reduce overpopulation of certain species. In some ecosystems, dragons might actually restore balance. But fire changes everything. Wildfires would increase dramatically. Forests would struggle to survive. Climate impact would be significant. Carbon levels might rise. Entire landscapes could transform. Some regions would become too dangerous for human settlement. Mountain ranges, dragon territory. Now here's the bigger question. Could dragons coexist peacefully with humans? If they were intelligent enough to communicate, perhaps. We might see dragon research programs. In remote regions, dragons could replace helicopters for transport.
Hold tight! We're ascending to the peak!
Incredible.
A single dragon, revolutionizing travel. Military use would be inevitable, and that's when things become dangerous. Because once dragons become weapons, global power shifts instantly. The country controlling dragons would dominate the world. They could be too powerful, too independent, too intelligent. If dragons chose isolationist natural boundaries for the first time in history.
Certain regions of Earth would no longer belong to us, and maybe that wouldn't be a bad thing. There's also one final issue: food. Creatures that large would need enormous energy.
Humans would need to protect food resources. Conflict between survival and coexistence would become unavoidable. So would dragons make the world better? Or worse? They would inspire fear, wonder, technological innovation, political tension, environmental transformation, and for the first time in human history.
But maybe the most interesting question isn't what would happen if dragons were real. Maybe it's, would we try to control them? Or would we finally learn to share the planet?